Hey everyone, welcome to Super Bowl Sunday live stream. I think it's the Super Bowl today. I don't know because I probably won't watch it. Not that I don't enjoy halftime shows or something like that, but I'll probably just be doing something else. Maybe my fish room, definitely visiting grandma. I think it's her birthday week this week, so we'll find good food. All right, today I've got a couple things lined up that we could talk about. We can always answer questions or have good things come up. So if you've got a great question to really talk about, go ahead and put it in the chat. And maybe I'll see it. If you've got something that specifically is a problem in your fish keeping life, maybe I'll be able to address it as well. Today, the question I'm starting with comes from the chat before. We always chat about an hour before we go live. And I like to grab questions that I can't really just explain in a couple messages. And so I've got some stuff from Facebook that I was like, oh man, I can't really tackle this. It's going to take me forever to write, a 10-page report on how to fix this. But this question was, why don't more stores quarantine? And the simple answer is money. It's as easy as that. And it's not that maybe they don't have it, because like big chain stores, right? Why aren't they quarantining? Money. Mom and pop stores, why aren't they quarantining? Money. Probably two different reasons. Like the big chain, stores that own Chewy.com and everything, and they're doing hundreds and hundreds of millions or billions. It's not so much that they don't have the money; it's that they will make more money by not quarantining, and that's true for both actually. So if we didn't quarantine and we sell fish, and let's say we sell you a pea puffer, right? And we sell it to you for $5, and you buy that pea puffer, and then it's got internal tapeworms, or you bring it home and it's got ick. Well, you come back to the store, now you're buying a $12 bottle of Ick-X. So now a sale it for $5, now it's 17. Then you come back 2 weeks later and you're like, it's not putting on any weight. Oh, well, you're gonna need Paracleanse, another 12, $13. Now we're into it for over 30, right? For one fish. It makes way more money. Now, what if we weren't even giving you the right meds? What if we had offered, oh, just pick one, and it didn't work? You come back and you buy another med, and then you buy another med, and then the fish dies. So you buy another fish, then you buy another med, then you buy another fish, then you buy another med, right? That will make way more money than healthy fish. That right there is part of the problem, is that chasing money. So one thing that was suggested was, well, what if it was like Europe where you had to treat fish humanely and healthy and all of that? That would solve some of it. But then you've got like mom and pop stores. Like I'm a mom and pop, right? And it's not that I purely want to make more money. It's that we might not have the money. So a lot of times we got to think about what goes into quarantining a fish, right? Well, if I have 50 sales tanks, right? And my average turnover on those tanks is, let's say it's about half of them per week. So that's 25 tanks that are kind of coming and going every week. Now, obviously, there's some fish out of this one and some fish out of this one. They both have some left. We're going to make this easy and just say about 25 tanks worth of fish are going in and out every week in this small pet store, right? And so to quarantine for a week, I have to have at least 25 more tanks, right? So already I've increased my store footprint by probably 25%. If you've got 50 tanks, maybe that's half, right? And then you've got, the cash area and the plants and dry goods, and that's the other 50%. So now I have to increase my store capacity by 25% to quarantine. Then I have to have 25 more tanks running. And because I've increased by 25%, I'm going to need someone to oversee the quarantining of the fish. So I need another employee, right? And on top of that, I have to bring in 25 tanks in additional fish, which, maybe that's $4,000 or $5,000 a week, right? And so when we start looking at this, making the jump, right? So let's say they were a mom and pop store and they weren't quarantining fish, and they say, hey, we want to quarantine fish, right? So the minimum is they'd have to have the space. Let's say they can liquidate the space or scale down something. They can get that. They put in 25 tanks. Even if there's 20 gallons at $1 a gallon, say that's $500, right? No, not even tax. So $500. You're gonna need an employee. And you need one that knows meds and fish really well. So like our employees start at $22 an hour, but that doesn't tell the whole story. As an employer, a $22 an hour employee costs me somewhere between 27 and 29, depending on health insurance benefits and are they taking the 401k and all of those things, right? And then you need them probably on average with 25 tanks, a minimum of 2 hours a day between netting out bodies, applying meds. Water changes for us are at least automated. Most stores don't have automated water change, so there's probably another couple hours of water changing. So at 4 hours a day, 7 days a week, it's 28 hours. You start looking at, okay, well that's like a $3,000 cost. So now all of a sudden, the startup costs, you got the $500 for the tanks, right? You got some sponge filters and stuff too, but $500, $3,000 for an employee essentially, or maybe not $3,000. It'll be more like $1,500. So you got $2,000 there, and then you got to buy $4,000 in fish. So you're at $7,000 to $8,000 to put a 1 week delay in trying to get fish healthy and selling them. And the real honesty is, a lot of the mom and pop stores out there just don't have $8,000 to invest that way. A lot of them are pay down their credit card by $1,000 and order $1,000 worth of fish. And so this is where you'll see it a lot in stores where they just don't have a lot of fish. You'll see this. It seems the craziest thing, but if you're sitting and you're close with a wholesaler, there are stores that will just order, I'll take 2 of each tetra on the list. I'll take 2 of every Corydora on the list, because they can't afford to go, well, like in our store, we might go, okay, we're going to carry 15 types of Corydoras. We'll need 24 of each. That's how we'll put them in tanks. Instead, they're trying to catch as many customers as I can when they walk in. Do you have, if they bought 2 of everything, there's a lot higher likelihood they can say, we do have that, and we have 2 of them, right? And so it's money. Now, on top of all that, we could open that up a little bit as a hobbyist. If we paid more for fish, and I've talked about this in the past, but essentially we don't pay enough for fish. If you rewind 10 years ago when I opened up my store, right? The wages that were getting paid, kind of that I got paid or we were paying our employees, was $12 an hour, right? And here we are 10 years later, we're paying our people $22. But back then, a neon tetra was $1.99. Now I think we're up to $1.09 or $2.90. $2.49. Actually, I want to see if it'll. But that 49 cents it has to cover, right? Just that little bit that's gone up has to cover all the new shipping fees. They've gone through the roof. Has to cover rent went up every year, has to cover all of these things. And the reality is it doesn't really. So it doesn't really leave room for caring for the animal better, right? And so this person had asked me, why do we do it? You must do it because it makes you money. And the reality is, no, it doesn't. We would make more money by not quarantining, actually. But it's kind of the right thing to do. And we are lucky enough that we've got a big enough presence online and things like that. And we pull from a very populous state that we can find enough people that are willing to pay a little bit more. But every single day, we will run into customers, probably at least half, that aren't willing to pay more. I can buy this fish, it's on sale over here. I can buy it online here. I can save. And that's fine. We say, you can do that. We spent our money, we do this, it's a different product. And we try to give analogies like, you can buy a cheeseburger at McDonald's for $2. You can buy one for $12 at a sit-down restaurant. You can buy one for $100 at a fancy restaurant. They're all different, and they all are the same. They're different risks, different tastes, different quality, different ingredients. And we're more like the sit-down restaurant. We're not the super, super high-end. We're not the low-end. We're somewhere in the middle where we're always trying to provide that value. And so I think what we don't do as hobbyists is we don't understand, just because someone owns a pet store and they make, burgers or sell fish, they're not all the same, right? You could have some that are very, very, very high end, like an ADA store where the average tank setup might be $5,000. By the time you buy a stainless steel canister filter, you're buying all the plants there, you're buying all of that kind of stuff, versus a chain store like a PetSmart or a Petco where the average might be $150 setup, right? And I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I certainly have. Every time I go into the chain stores, the tanks are getting smaller. They're getting less quality, cheaper, basically cheaper ingredients. Anything you can do to fight off the inflation. Well, a $100 tank from 10 years ago would now be $200, but that's a way harder conversion for people to get them into the hobby. And so you just kind of, well, we're not going to include this, we're not going to include this, we're not going to include the heater, we're going to use a cheaper filter, we're going to use, now you're getting 3-gallon tanks that are just not even the right type of plastic, really. They'll shatter, as opposed to acrylic, where acrylic got expensive, right? So let me look. I want to see the price for our neon tetras because I'm not even 100% sure off the top of my head right now what they are. Wait for my system to load. $500? We are at $299. So we are up to $299. Now, I also know when COVID hit, what we experienced is a lot of vendors played catch up, right? So before COVID, neon tetras were cheap and everybody was fighting to keep them cheap so that they could win the orders. And then COVID hit, and once prices kind of went up for shipping and everything, that's when neon tetras got expensive, right? Now they're costing what Rummy Nose tetras used to cost. And so I still don't think we're seeing what fish should cost. In my opinion, a neon tetra is not any less impressive than a roseline shark, right? Or, I don't know, I'm trying to think of other fish that are like, or a Congo tetra, or, things that are more expensive willing to pay for. And I think what we're the rock and a hard place that stores become put into is, can they get knowledgeable staff that can actually heal fish, right? Can they get access to the meds that will heal fish? Is the quality from their wholesalers good? Not everyone can order from 50 different places. Sometimes, especially the smaller the store is, the less options you have. If you are just you and one employee, it's much harder to drive 6 hours each way to go pick up an airport shipment, right? And the minimum airport shipment might be $5,000. And yet your budget, and I've worked at a store this where my budget was like $200 to $500 on a good week, right? And so you got to stretch that. You got to go, okay, what can I buy that will sell, make us money, not get sick, and give us money to buy the next batch, right? While extracting, I'm supposed to get paid. And so I don't think I think one thing we could do is we could buy with our wallets. And, what doesn't happen, I find, is people don't come into my store or the one I worked at and they go, I see you've got this fish, it's $9.99. I would love to pay you $19.99, and I would like you to quarantine 12 of them for an additional week. I've never had that happen, right? Because people don't want to pay more. But that's what it would have to be like, because like at our store, we do $100,000 or more each month. You start viewing each tank as like, how much money does this tank have to make to justify the cleaning and the feeding and the like the overhead, like the rent and all of that. And that number, I just calculated it. Let's see. So I want to say, yeah, it was $250. So each week, each aquarium in our store has to generate $250 in sales. Otherwise, we're losing money on it. And that's a moving target, by the way. So as employees get raises, as rent goes up, as inflation happens, a lot of those things, right? And that number used to be a lot smaller, which was nice when it was just me, right? And so I was trading my time for money. I worked long hours. But at $250, if you bought 12 fish and you're paying an extra $10 for quarantine, the store's actually still losing money, unfortunately. And so that's where it really becomes difficult when you're quarantining fish. And we run into this a lot when we're buying from breeders. You might be a customer of ours and you come in and you go, I have 12 Dark Knight Rams. I bought them from you. They're from Dean's line. I would love to sell them back to you. And we have to quarantine them. I guess we don't have to. We will quarantine them. And so the problem is we probably will just turn you down. We'll go, I'm sorry, that's not enough fish, because a quarantine tank in the back costs us $250, right? And 12 Dark Knight Rams, after we pay for them off of you, let's say we're buying them $15 each. I don't even know what we're selling them at these days anymore, but let's say we're buying them $15 each, right? We're into it for $180. We go to sell them. Let's say we're selling for $30 each, right? We've doubled our money, but the quarantine system actually made us lose money. So we're in that weird, like, well, if I don't quarantine, we could make money. If I do quarantine, we won't make money. And so that's how you get into that situation of like, why aren't all stores quarantining? And mostly it's that example right there. And so when we're buying fish and we've got these custom tanks we've had built and everything, we want to put 300 cardinal tetras per tank, right? And at 300 cardinal tetras, let's see what we sell a cardinal tetra for. Current price in our store is $3.99. So $1 more than a neon tetra, right? So if we do our job, we buy these and we keep 300 of them alive, which will have some losses. I would say probably like 20 or something. I don't know. So now we've got 280 cardinal tetras to sell. You sell those at $4 a piece. Let's do some math. 280 times 4, 1,120. You minus the 250 for quarantine, right? We're left at $870. Pretty good. You subtract the cost of that fish, which is, I don't know off the top of my head. I haven't looked at a wholesale list lately, but my guess is $1.30 or so. So you minus another, let's see, 200, well, no, it's 300. So 300, so it's like $390 minus 390. Oh, that's 30. I hate when you hit the wrong button on a calculator and you got to do math in your head. So that, if we're lucky, that leaves us with about a $480 profit, which would be great. Yeah. So that being said, we don't sell 300 cardinal tetras. And in that scenario, 300 cardinal tetras, let me see if I can see that math for us. We sell in 90 days, in the last 90 days, we sold 1,208 cardinal tetras. So 1,208 cardinal tetras divided by 90 days, 1340.42 a day times 7. On average, we sell 93 cardinal tetras a week. So here's a little bit of the problem. A little bit of the problem becomes we'll have some out on the floor. We'll have some in quarantine, right? And we don't want to show necessarily 300 cardinal tetras in a 20-gallon tank out on the sales floor. People will start overstocking and things like that. So we'll end up having both those tanks. And if it takes us 3 weeks to sell the 300 cardinals, right? Let's say 2 of those weeks we have to have some in quarantine and we have to have some out on the floor. And so the original like 480 in profit, I didn't factor in we have to have a sales tank. So the 480 actually drops to 230, right? And then that second week kind of eats into that that profit. So because I was like, man, I should be getting rich if this is true. And I was like, oh yeah, I've forgotten a bunch of these little factors. And that obviously doesn't include power and a bunch of other things. And we are as efficient as we can get, right? So automatic water changes and things like that, and custom tanks designed to the size of the nets and other good things. So yeah, I think it's actually a pretty difficult thing. And if we as hobbyists try and reward quality fish. We make comments while we're at the store and we go, hey, these are really healthy. I'd like to buy these. I'm willing to pay a little bit more. And I'm not saying we need to, tip or anything like that, but letting the stores know I'm here and I'm buying these because they're healthy, and maybe I saw you quarantine them, or you can also say I would buy these over here, but they don't look very healthy today. If you want to quarantine them, I'll or get them healthier, I'll buy them next week. Anything like that. So yeah, bottom line, it comes down to money, and in aggregate, as a species, we're always driven on, can we get this cheaper? Could we get a deal? That's just human nature, right? Now, people around Aquarium Co-op tend to be not the normal aggregate. So if I took 20 billion people and we look at them as a species, they want the deal. If we look at Aquarium Co-op people, they want good value on average, because that's who we are. We're a value brand. We try to bring value for your money, and we know that, hey, I may be paying more, but I'm going to get more value, right? And sometimes, with like a dry good, if my Easy Green was $7 and there's another Easy Green out there that's $6, people are just going to buy the one for $6 because it's really hard to see they get any value. Some people will realize, but I get videos, I get blog articles, I get in-person experience, all that, and they will pay the $7. When it comes to a fish, like food, it should be easy for us to realize, depending on who cooked it or who is taking care of this fish, the value on that neon tetra in the care of a 2-year-old kid versus a veteran versus Dr. Tim Miller Morgan, who really made sure it was healthy. They all have different values. And so I think we can help reinforce that by continually trying to shop with people who are doing a good job, and know that we're not going to change it overnight. Probably won't even change it the next 20 years, honestly. But over time, you put money where you think it's going good, and those things can grow. And you might just get one local store that's doing really great. That's kind of what we have. I mean, I'm not trying to put down the other stores, because that's not, but I'm saying Aquarium Co-op in the city of Edmonds, in Washington, in one state, we really like that store. But, there's only a couple of us in the state. Most of the stores, honestly, are going out of business. And is that the public doesn't want to fund it? Is it people didn't adapt? It's kind of a mix of all of it. Even one of the wholesalers, so we had a wholesaler for dry goods. So think about this. They wholesale dry goods. So they're getting the stuff they would sell in their store is crazy cheap, right? They closed down their retail store because they were having trouble finding quality staff, and I personally think they were hung up on paying their people enough money, and they were kind of out of the way too. So it's not easy. Even they're keeping their wholesale business going, so it's not like they couldn't run business at all. It's just it's that numbers of like having a space open X amount of hours a day where you're subjecting yourself to, like, that dog just pooped on my floor, or that kid just stomped on an applesauce packet. Like, all of those things just cost money and time to clean up. And an online store or a wholesale business doesn't have to deal with the public, basically. And, as a society, we keep kind of min-maxing our way towards cheapest price and best experience. And that doesn't leave a lot of room for retail, honestly. All right, yeah, lots of free subs going on today. Thank you to everybody who's been pitching in. If you want to get a free membership to the channel, they go based on who's the most interactive. So hitting that thumbs up button, leaving comments, talking in the chat, watching videos. And by the way, watching's not just, I clicked on it, gave them a view, and clicked out. It's watch time. You watch a 20-minute video, you get 20 minutes worth of credit. You click in and watch 20 seconds, you get 20 seconds worth of credit. So The more you're active, the more likely you are to get one for free. And then the goal would be after you see all the talks and the stuff that, well, it's mostly the talks and the discounts, stuff like that. You'd want to join and pitch in the $5 and we'll do more stuff with it. I just bought 2 dozen Tetras at PetSmart for $2.79 each, 12 glow lights and 12 black neons. 3 died and I had picks, so I got a credit and I bought 12 more. Cashier scolded me for not bringing in the bodies. Yeah, I mean, every place got its own rules and stuff. What I find interesting about that is usually, in my experience, the cashiers are so disconnected from the people at the top. The people at the top are going, this is the best possible scenario that can happen. You bought 24 fish. You lost 3. You got 21 maybe healthy fish. You go buy 12 more. A decent chance you're going to get them all sick. Then you'll buy meds, right? Then if you lose them all, you'll come buy more. And so the 2-week like guarantee on those fish play into the medicine farm to make money, which is an unfortunate thing. All right. I need a centerpiece fish that's gonna show, it's gonna show these longfin rosy barbs that, hold on. My brain is not keeping up. I need a centerpiece fish that's gonna show these longfin rosy barbs, what's what, tank in 40, okay, so it's not me. That sentence doesn't make sense. Gonna show these rosy barb, what's what, tank is 40 breeder, heavy planted, 12 bards, I'm guessing 12 barbs. So far, what do you pick? Okay, 40 breeder, there's 12 rosy barbs, and we gotta show them who's boss, and it's a 40 breeder, and it's gotta be a centerpiece. Because my normal go-to is Programi, but I'm not sure that's not the answer there. And it's going to show them what's what, because I can think of stuff that'll get along, but I can't think of something that's going to like put them in their place, because I was like, just get like a Senegal bicher. But that's not going to put them in their place. There's got to be something, though. I know there's got to be something. The right angelfish that's got an attitude on him, that could do it. Who's just scrappy enough? I know there's got to be, and it's heavily planted, so you don't want to do like red hump earth eaters because they'll dig too much. A betta, no, I definitely wouldn't recommend a betta. They're not going to be boisterous enough to put them, back in their place. It's like I can almost see it in my mind of like, yeah, I know what the behavior looks like. I just have to have the fish like, oh, that's the fish. Plus, I'm trying to figure out in only 40 gallons, because I would think like in a larger tank, flagtail Prochulotus would be great. Datnoids would be great. Like I can think of large monster fish. I'm trying to think of, okay, I got to limit to 40 gallons. Can't be so aggressive it's going to tear them apart. Can't get bullied by them. Can't interrupt the plants. What would I do? I would potentially try Bolivian rams. I would potentially try, let me think here. Bolivian rams. Maybe a blood parrot. Yeah, blood parrot would be good. That's exactly who I would do. They're not going to dig a ton. They get pretty big. Someone says 7 and a 40 breeder. No way. 7s do get pretty big, and they'll eat on plants sometimes. There's got to be a few more, like maybe a firemouth. There's some Central and South American cichlids that make sense as well, but it's always hard because you don't know what the aesthetic people are going for. They may be like, I would never keep a convict cichlid. Okay, well, it fits that rule though. Yeah, so instead of red cichlid, yeah, I mean you could technically do like a jewel cichlid. Those things will terrorize those long fins. But again, I typically feel like most people want community planted tanks So when we solve a problem, right? I've got this and I want to add to it. Then a month later, it becomes I have this and this. What can I add to it, right? And that's like, oh, some corridoras. Okay, I've got this, and corridoras. What can I add to it? Because that's the fun of a community tank is adding new things in to shake it up. Like, ooh, now I have a new problem. Like, oh, I added some opistos. They're having babies now. Or I did this and this is going on. Good food for newly hatched neon rasbora fry. Those are going to be real tiny. I haven't raised those. My go-to would be green water, maybe APR, artificial protein rotifers. If they were, once they get big enough off of those, live baby brine. Infusoria is what a lot of people do. I'm not great. I'm too lazy to cultivate it, so I like to use green water instead. That's what I use for small, like rainbows and stuff. Um, yeah, green water. Green water makes life a lot easier. Can chili rasboras mix with a half moon betta? I would say you're like 70-30. 70% chance, yeah, that'll work. 30% like, I caught my betta and he had half a chili rasbora in his mouth. I think also if you could grow out or buy more mature chili rasboras where they're bright red and a little bit bigger, because they don't get huge. But if you like, sometimes at my store they'll be small because they came in small. I wouldn't get the smallest ones and put them in with the betta. Rapashi powder, I might try some Rapashi powder in that scenario, but it floats on the top a lot, and I'm not sure it'll be fine enough for those. Rasbora fry can be stupid small. And so the APR, the artificial protein rotifers, they come by micron. So I'm going to buy a 5 micron. I'll buy 10, I'll buy 20 micron. Whereas like Rapashi is ground up pretty fine, but you might be like, oh, that's 80 micron. That one's 3 micron. That one's 30 micron. Someone says egg yolk. I've never really done that much. I've always just used green water, and I guess I just haven't done it. And my thought process is like, yeah, I feel like I could foul the water pretty easy. And for me personally, I think it's a pain in the butt to change water on real small fry. It just, I feel like you're too likely to suck them up, and I just don't like that. So, Nikki Fufu coming in with the 20 subs. Why do I keep saying subs? Memberships. Memberships. A lot of people getting memberships today. What's the best Rapashi? I like the community blend the most. My favorite blend, which I go back and forth, was actually the shrimp souffle, because it had calcium and I really like that. We don't sell enough Rapashi, because I think we went back to them and they're like, cool, we'll make that for you, but it was some, like, for them to have the blend made, it was some ridiculous number, like I gotta buy 20 pallets of it or something. And I was like, we don't even sell that. I mean, we sell, well, how much Rapashi of like community do we sell? I don't even know. Community. You guys are buying from us, like the community blend, 510 units in the last 90 days. So when you're looking at like 20 pallets, you're like, oh, that's 30,000 of them. Like that's a 20-year supply. And even if I really hyped it up and everything, which I do like that, I just don't think people are into it as much as I am. So, all right. How many eggs do platies lay in one sitting? They're actually a live bearer, and so they won't lay the eggs, but fry counts matter a lot on nutrition, water temperature, if you're separating males and females. It can be anywhere as few as about 10 or 12 to 200 or 300. And so if you're really trying to get those big numbers, you'd separate male and female really young. You'd feed them tons and really get them fat and plump. You'd put them together, and you're much more likely to get a bigger batch. And if you keep them at a little bit cooler temperature. All right. Let me try. I'm going to take us on a trip to Facebook, and I'm going to try to. So avert your eyes if you're anti-Facebook. Otherwise, buckle up for the ride. Let's see here. We're on Facebook. Look at that. Here we are. So this is the Aquarium Co-op, easy aquariums for beginners. I hang out here a little bit every day. And this person's asking me for my help. It says, isn't moneywort supposed to be the easy plant to grow? I've had mine for about 3 weeks and it's all melting. I thought it was doing well and I had new growth forming quickly. My water parameters are basically fine. That's, water parameters are normal. What I wanted to show here is this is what we deal with. Not deal with, that's not right. We see this day in, day out, every day. And this is where I think aquarium plants become hard because everyone's got all these different scenarios. So this person's running soil under the substrate and stuff like that. And when we look at these pictures, right, the water level's a little low. So my questions were like, are you even running filtration in here? You can see that there's plant melting. You can see there's algae. You can see, there's moneywort in here and some other plants. If we take a look at the other picture, right, we could see not a whole lot of light happening down there. So you might be thinking, well, what light are they running? They're running a Fluol 3.0. Should be plenty of light, right? Should be plenty. And what I actually think is going on, so to help this person, I did type out a long thing, but I was like, this is kind of a good thing to talk about. You can see they've got floating plants. This is why we like pictures. Because if someone just says, I have a dirted tank, a Fluol 3.0, and I bought moneywort and it's not doing so well, right? Well, you go, that doesn't make sense. Like, it should be doing pretty good. And they dose Easy Green. Like, wow, that should work. What I actually think is going on here is the dirt has created such a tannin environment. So that's the brown in the water, right? Now, when I would use organic Miracle Grow and stuff, when I was testing it many years ago, over 15 now, if I put any more than a quarter inch is not very much. If I put any more than a quarter inch, I would get so much brown water. I have to change a ton of water to let the light get in. I think that's what's going on here. I also wouldn't be surprised if this is like a Wallstad method tank where there's not a lot of filtration going on. I could be wrong. I don't know that answer. But I see lots of debris kind of settling on leaves. And so that's what makes me think of like, I'm not sure flow is where it needs to be in this tank. And maybe it's got a tornado in one corner and we can't see that corner. But one of the reasons we use flow in an aquarium is, to filter, but also to deliver nutrients. We need water to go by. And so that Easy Green, if you just put it in a corner and you don't have filtration, it might not ever make it to the other side, right? It just gets used up by algae in the plants over here. And so we need a system that's flowing through. So what I suspect is happening is they buy new plants from Aquarium Co-op, they put them into the substrate, and the plants are struggling to thrive, right? They're trying. And as they get taller, they start doing better, right? We can see here, the closer they're getting to the light, the better these plants are doing. But the bottoms, not so much. You might even see mushy stems. What I think is you buy a plant from us, they're half converted, right? The top half might be converted, the bottom half isn't. You put that into your aquarium. If it's struggling to get light, that bottom half is going to rot and die, right? It's not going to finish converting or anything like that. And so with these, I'd probably cut them and replant them after changing a bunch of this water, just to get the water to be clearer so that I have better light penetration for this tank. Now, one of the things I want to point out as well is while these water parameters are normal to who, right? Because some people would say, oh yeah, the pH is 6.4, that's normal. Like, yeah, not really. I mean, most of these plants would have been grown in much higher pH, right? And I would say it's not normal to have this much tannin. Now, they say they like the tannin. I get it, right? But you can't always have what you like to look at and what's practical. The other things I'm seeing is of the new growth, I still like right here, here's a good teaching lesson. You see the outsides of these leaves? They're yellowing. That means they're struggling to get nitrogen, right? And we can see some leaves here. This could be algae or it could be consuming itself And plants will do that a lot. That's what happens down here. Oh, you guys can't see that. Like down here, this where it looks like this plant is being very translucent, it consumes its old leaves to make new ones, right? We can see these nice green healthy leaves up here, but it will consume itself to do that. And when we're not getting enough, and you can see it here. This looks to be some of the floating plants, and they're also struggling. And so what my guess, if I was able to get this tank in my hands, I would bet there's a lot of stuff leaching out of the soil, which could be ammonia and other things that's fueling some plant growth. But it's not equally fueling it. So maybe it's low on phosphate or potassium or something. And so it's like it's going, but it's not thriving. It's just surviving. And so, yeah, big water change. I'd make sure I got Easy Green in there. You don't need root tabs. You got soil. If the soil was super thick, I personally would start over. I would go, okay, let's get this down to a quarter. And these plants here, you could also just cut them. If you just cut this plant and let it float, it would get enough light and it would root and it would be a good plant to go with. Otherwise, I would cut a few of these stems, plant them down after the water change, see if they don't root out really well and take hold. So that was that one. Let me check in on, I have an 8.4 pH in my city water. It's my dream to live somewhere with low pH water. Yeah, I've had both now. I've had low pH out of the tap and high out of the tap. And I'll tell you what, it makes no difference in my hobby, like at all. Someone earlier in the chat was asking, I have 7.8 ppm phosphate in my tap water. I'm doing RODI water, and how do I remineralize it? And my answer was, stop doing RODI water. Like, I would love to have that much phosphate in my water. I would love to have anything in my water. I love the fact that I have calcium in my water. People, too often, they look at it as a detriment and not as a surplus. And so, think of it like, instead of growing plants, right? Think of it like we want to make sandwiches. And you go, every time I turn on the tap water, I've got unlimited lunch meat. Oh, how do I bulldoze this house and build a new one so when I don't have unlimited lunch meat? And I'm going, but why don't we just stop buying lunch meat ever again and buy enough bread and enough mayonnaise and enough chips and lettuce and pickles and cheese and just make ourselves a sandwich factory? And that's how I view the phosphates in the water of like, so you've got 8 parts per million phosphate? Great. Let's grow a ton of plants. Easy. So I say it's easy because instead of doing all these water changes, just stop doing water changes. You'll set up your tank. You've got 50 gallons of water, let's say. You've got 8 parts per million phosphate. And if you do nothing, you'll grow a bunch of algae. And then guess what? Eventually, you'll have 50 gallons of water with a bunch of algae and no phosphate. You could clean up that algae. You could plant plants. Put in some Easy Green. Guess what? You've got 50 gallons of water with Easy Green and you're growing plants. Then you go, well, I need to change some water. I go, okay, great. Go change 15% of the water, right? So you just change 7.5 gallons. You've got some excess phosphate. Your plants are just going to digest it. So instead of going, I have too much of one thing, let's reset the whole thing and then try to make it really hard. So you went from, I think I have too much of one thing, to I'll have nothing and let me try to doctor 15 parameters, to just embracing the thing you have too much of. Every home I've ever lived at while keeping fish in the last 20 years, and there's been, let's see, 1, 2, 4, I think, 4. Plus, so I've got 4 different water where I've lived. I have a warehouse and a store. So I've experienced 6 unique water structures at no time. Oh, and the previous store. So 7 different water structures. At no time have I ever used RODI water or even attempted to really change my water. I have only ever added to my water. And the only thing I add, crushed coral. And I do that in my hard water today. I did it in my soft water a long time ago, and I'll do it tomorrow. Crushed coral just gives you a nice buffer that if the pH did crash, it'll counteract it. If your pH and mineral hardness is already high, guess what? It won't dissolve really. So it's just a really nice thing to have mixed in there. And yeah, we use it a lot at the store because it gets consumed because we do have softer water. We use it in all of the planted tanks at the warehouse because they're constantly consuming minerals. And if we're not careful, if we're late on delivering the minerals, you'll get crypts and other things starting to melt back, right? So my response to how do I work with RO water, RODI water is stop working with RODI water. It makes your life so much harder. Nikki Fufu with another 20 coming in hot. Everybody gets a membership. You get a membership, and you get a membership, and you get a membership. All right, I was going to bring up another little plant thing from the Facebook group. Another thing that we see fairly often. Right here. All right, let's go back to it. So here we have this person has gotten these plants. Someone gave them to them. And we got pictures. That always helps. They're wanting to identify them, right? So here I think we have probably a dwarf Sagittaria, probably. But what am I seeing? I'm seeing lots of fine white substrate, sand, and I don't see any debris or mold. So it probably means it's a newly set up tank. Here, this looks to be a cryptocorn maybe. It's either a crypt or a Java fern, but there's another one I think it looks more like a Java fern. This one I think is Java fern, needle leaf probably. They've got, some kind of stem plant. Maybe it's moneywort or Bacopa caroliniana. It's hard to say. You've got an Anubias here. Can't see the rhizome. Maybe it's above. You got some algae here. Could be blackbeard starting or blue-green algae. And then you've got another Bacopa-like plant. It's probably not Bacopa. It might be, well, they got it from somebody else. Should already be submerged, I would think. The problem is they're new. And what I want to explain here is this is when you get into stuff like this, let's say they just let this tank go. And 2 years later, they're giving advice. Well, I ran sand and my plants did fine, right? My advice with sand is it's not good for most plants and it's a difficult beginner substrate. Sand compacts so tightly that mulm and stuff settles on the top. When that mulm settles on the top, it means it's not going down and getting to the roots. And so if we're not getting to the roots, there's nothing replenishing the substrate. You can put root tabs in, and as long as the roots can spread out, they'll get to it. But you're not getting the remineralization of that substrate from the food and the poop and all of that the products are designed to work in conjunction with. When we work with root tabs, we're expecting that you're going to have fish and you're going to feed them and they're going to go poop, and eventually a lot of that's going to settle into the substrate. And so that's one of the reasons I really like gravel, is that it really allows that stuff to get in there and start feeding those plants. Every time you feed and that fish poops, it's more food for the plants, and you really get that cycle going, as opposed to this sitting on top and makes it so easy to siphon, right? Now, if I run a sand tank, you could use Java fern like this. You could use Anubias. Both of those are going to feed off the water column. You can attach them to rocks, super easy. Even these stem plants, you might go, hey, I'm doing pretty good with them because they're water column feeders. They want 75% of the food out of the water, 25% out of the substrate. But even here, like, no doubt, I could make a fully planted tank in sand. But it'll be more difficult, and it won't grow as fast. It won't spread as fast. I'll have to intervene more. So if we had, a more loose substrate, even if it's just a mix of rocks and coral and sand and mud and all of that, like nature, let's say, we get a lot better growth. So this person being new, this is a very high likelihood scenario of are they going to be successful in the plant hobby, right? I noticed some of them have brown leaves. If you would please let me know what plant they are and what I need to do. I planted them, but I don't know if they need to be planted or what. So I know enough to know, okay, I don't know what I'm doing. They're dosing some flourish, which that'll help a little bit, but if they don't have fish, they're not going to have any nitrates in there. So those plants are just going to die. I haven't added any root tabs, right? That's fine. But this is where we see a lot of people, oh, I tried plants once or twice and I failed. And this person doesn't even really have a chance. And it's really hard to help these people because it's basically like, let me know what I need to do. It's like, well, yeah, you need to spend days and hours of research learning how to grow plants. It's kind of like I went to Home Depot and I bought all the plants, and then I go to a garden group and I go, hey, could you let me know how to make all these things thrive? And it's just like the odds that someone's going to go, well, let me spend 2 days of my life teaching you are lower, right? So at best, I could link a video, and I'm going to link them back to this and go, hey, watch this, and kind of know that, where do you go from here? I would say some of the plants have been identified, and I'm sure this has been updated since then. To look into a better fertilizer. I have no idea what light they're running. I would start focusing on the basics of growing plants, of nutrients in, nutrients out on plants, root structures, types of plants. So you've got plants that'll send out runners, you've got stem plants, and you've got rhizome plants. Learning each of those and what they need, that would be a step in the right direction. And one thing I would say, you can hop on our website and you can read about dwarf Sagittaria. You go there and you can learn, oh, okay, it wants this kind of fertilizer, it's going to do this. That's one of the benefits you get when you buy plants from somewhere. Hopefully you're at least starting with, I know the name and I know some things about it, and this probably fits into the plan I'm doing, right? Even if I walk into Home Depot right now and I go, I'm looking for something in my yard, I can get a little bit of information of like, is it full sun, full shade, hardy or not hardy? Do I even live in this zone it should be being sold in? What will it kind of look like? There's a picture, I at least know a name. I could Google and learn more about it. And this kind of stuff I find to be very difficult for the hobby. If you gave away a plant bag or, grab bag or something, try to provide plant names and things at least so the person receiving it, don't assume that the person's going to get it is just a plant wizard already. Most of us won't be. And so, and in fact, the 2 stem plants, I couldn't even identify. I'd probably have to grow them, then identify them. And the odds of me planting them where I would want them without knowing what they are very low. So, yeah. Today we went into the little space book a little bit. All right. I have a Fluval Aqua Sky 2.0. Is this considered a good light for plants? Yeah, I think so. It would depend on the height of the tank, and if it was a shorter tank, yes. Every inch bigger you go, maybe not. I think I'm getting less critical of stuff that I sell. So, like before I sold lights, I would be really critical on Fluval and that kind of stuff. And now that I sell a light, I live in fear that people will assume that I'm only critical because I'm trying to tear down the competition. With the Fluval Aqua Sky 2.0, I think 20 longs, 10 gallons, or low light tanks. So if you're like, oh, I've got a 20 high and I'm doing Anubiases and Crips, you'll be fine, right? But if you're wanting like, oh, I've got a 29 gallon or a 55 or a 40 breeder that's a little bit bigger front to back, and you're going, yeah, I want to do more than just low light stuff. Maybe you're getting into, I want to do a little bit of pearlweed or scarlet temple, or I want to explore a little bit more in that planted hobby. I would say upgrading a light is probably worth it, right? Whether it's ours or not, it doesn't matter. But upgrading to a light that puts out more potentially would allow you to dial in where you need to be for the types of plants you want to keep right now. That being said, I encourage most people, play with what you got. If you got a light and you think it visually looks good, that's lighting for me mostly is about visuals. If they look good, I'm pretty happy. Then you can just buy plants that fit it. Like, oh, I'm going to do some Java moss on this tree. I'm going to do these Crips. I'm going to do, this and that. and you're still gonna have a gorgeous tank, right? As long as you like the color of the light and stuff that's already working. There are some lights that are so bad that are, maybe they came standard on the tank. Like marine lamp lights are pretty just terrible, right? But for the most part, you can make it work. LEDs have gotten so good that a lot of, there's, I won't say there's not a lot of difference because there is, but it used to be you really had to buy good plant lighting to grow plants. Now you just need some pretty decent light. If you bought one that's 4 plants, Aqua Sky is 4 plants, you're at least half of the way there. So it's on a 29 gallon. Yeah, if you want to go a little bit, more than the low light plants, I would recommend getting a different light. If you're comfortable with low light plants, maybe a dwarf aquarium lily and other low lights, you'll be fine. Yeah, I wouldn't, I have a hard time spending other people's money. I love to spend money on my hobby. I love the look of a new light. I love it. It's the journey of buying it, the waiting for it, the putting it on, the changing all of that. I love, and so I'm willing to invest in it. But it could be one of those things of like, oh, you've got 5 kids and are barely making ends meet, and you've got a light in an aquarium. Like, you can have a lot of fun with that thing. You do not need to be buying new ones. And I just want to make sure that I'm not letting that skew for other people, right? It's one of those, like, if you were to ask me, should I go out drinking with my buddies on Friday night or should I buy an Aquarium Co-Op light? No brainer, buy a light. Like, one night of drinking versus a light that's going to last you years, I'll buy the better light every time. But if it was, do I eat top ramen for the next 3 weeks or do I buy a new light? I would say, well, you might get away with the light you got. Will blackbeard algae ever go away? I truly believe that with enough time, everything in an aquarium can change. That being said, we're usually not patient enough. So I would say, no, it probably won't go away for you until you add, I add flagfish or Siamese algae eaters or an army of Amano shrimp, or I took a lot of the decorations out and I sprayed it with hydrogen peroxide, let it sit for 5-10 minutes, then rinsed it really well, put it back in, it died off, stuff ate on it. I usually will take action. How am I doing? Are the braces going good for me? Does it still hurt? It doesn't really hurt much at all. Yeah, they're going well. Down to just a gap on the lower, right here. And the next appointment, whenever I am, that'll start closing that gap and working on the fine adjustments. It's been not quite a journey, but it's crazy how easy it's been. And, mostly it's just time. And I'm so busy, I don't have time to even, I'm just like, oh, wow, yeah, I guess it has been X amount of months. Like, I don't know. My life is usually like based around cargo containers and trips and product launches and stuff. So, I don't even really think about a lot of the normal stuff. It's, there's probably some saying out there that sounds awesome of like, everyone's got different problems and usually I just got problems I got to focus on. But everybody's got problems. That's the end of it. Isn't the plural for Anubius? I think so. Did I say Anubiuses? I hope so. I hope I said Anubiuses. Anubi? I'm convinced nobody actually knows anything and we're all just making it up, and some of us are more bullheaded. I don't care. If someone came in and said Anubi, wouldn't stop them. Even if they say Anubis, we don't stop them. We all know what we're talking about. I've got some blackbeard algae starting on my sponge filter. How do I get rid of it without crashing the beneficial bacteria? Get yourself a flagfish or a Siamese algae eater. I don't know what other fish are in there, but they'll start eating at it. And as I do that, you'll have less problems. It'll go away. Usually when it starts, though, there's an imbalance somewhere. Maybe that's light. Maybe it's maybe it hitched a ride on a plant, or fish poop or whatever. But just keep working on it. Scuds, thumbs up or thumbs down? I say thumbs up. They're rad. Good food. Do I have a suggestion other than the Casa Wi-Fi plug because I can't get the Casa plug to work well with my router? Interesting. I don't have another recommendation because those are the best ones. Like, I went round and round with Dean and other people where they're like, I'm gonna try this one. I go, I'm telling you, Casa's the best one. This was like years ago. They'd buy them like, yeah, guess what? They don't work. Like, yeah, I know. People sometimes forget at the point where I'm endorsing a product, like, oh, I spent $900 testing every Wi-Fi plug on the market at the time. There could be stuff better by now, I suppose, but it's not easy, and it's, again, it might be like, well, you just say that one because you sell it. Like, no, I sell it because it was the best one. So my guess is there's something, I would maybe change something about the router, or maybe you need a Wi-Fi extender. I'm not sure, but in my possession, and we use between the retail store, the warehouse, and my fish room and my house, I easily have over 100 in use. I've only ever had one, I think, break ever. And so I would question, I'm like, the odds of this Casa Wi-Fi timer being the problem versus, maybe something will, like, your money, I guess what I'm trying to say, your money might be better spent on a different type of router system, or a booster. I mean, I don't know the house layout or something like that. But, some of the best money I've ever spent is investing in mesh networks. If you don't have one at your home, I would highly recommend one. A mesh network just means you have multiple points of internet. They all work together. I myself am at a point where I use Wi-Fi 6 or higher. At the retail store expansion is getting it. It doesn't have it yet, but we bought them. The warehouse has them, and then my home has them. And your devices will be upgrading. Like newer iPhones last 2 or 3 years, and Macs, and a lot of the laptops you can buy that are a little bit higher end, they'll all have the Wi-Fi 6. And it went from sitting at my couch and going, oh, I get 29 download, to getting, 400 download. Same exact connection, only swapping the router, and a lot less dropouts and things like that. And in a time where my whole life is being run by Wi-Fi, it was pretty important. And so, yeah, it's made a great difference in my life. Get a good router. Even if it's just $100 like Google Pod, even that'll change most people's lives. Replace my 48-inch Higer 24/7 aquarium light with a 48-inch Aquarium Co-Op light. The Aquarium Co-Op light is way better quality and makes my planted aquarium look amazing. And I now eat tacos 2 to 3 times a week, and it's changed my life for the better. Well, I'm glad to hear that, T. Winkle. I love the way you talk. It's so relaxing. I put on one of your videos and it helps me sleep. Yeah, I try not to be sensational, and doesn't mean I don't like to have fun, but educating and just having a good time is what I'm about. And yeah, apparently my voice, you're not the first and you won't be the last. A lot of people fall asleep to my voice, which is kind of good and bad, I would say. Like, oh, okay, am I just super boring? Or is it just, I make sure that, my voice never does anything crazy. There's not bells and whistles and stuff. It's been a year already, Cassandra. 1 year being a NERM goes by quick. I use the Wise plug because they had them at Home Depot when I needed one. Yeah, I mean, they have decent reputation. It's never a new buy because it, does not end in us. The genus name is Anubias. Because it does not end in us. It's never a new buy because it does not end in us. Then how do you, so with that logic, how do you explain Cryptocorn wendetii? Because that's how it's said. And that doesn't end in us either. I really don't care about pronunciation of anything. And so, mostly because I don't find the value in it. When someone, potato, chicken nugget, taco, I don't care. Let's go eat. My casa is the best even for non-aquatic stuff. Yep, I use the light switches in the studio. We use them at home. Um, yeah, I use them all over the place. I kind of wish they came out with some more stuff. I even use so all my security cameras. I've got two cameras in the fish room just to while I'm traveling. Let's see how Ladybird's doing. Let's make sure someone came by and fed the fish. And they're like $25 cameras. Like I'm kind of bought in on that ecosystem, but again, I find stuff it's a good value. I want to use it. Less talking for me today. Glass is broke. Ooh, I have a difficult time seeing, but I'm here listening. Yeah, I still need to make an eye appointment. I can see like I'm holding stuff further away a little bit. So, have I considered order or carrying the Casa power strips? Yes. If the system wasn't so broken, we would probably be selling all kinds of Casa stuff. So we buy a lot of those Casa light timers. We literally, well, I shouldn't say literally because that's not true. We make almost nothing because the price is getting neutered on Amazon and we match it. So we have supply issues. Shocker, right? Aquarium Co-Op doesn't make the product. We have supply issues. It's almost like we knew we were launching a light and we said, hey, we need thousands of this thing. And the wholesaler like, cool, we have 26. And they're the American wholesaler, right? They supply everyone in America. So we go straight to Daddy Casa parent company and we go, look, we need thousands of these things. Like, can we buy this by the truckload? And is there a better price? And they go, no problem. We'll do that. And then the one wholesaler in America gets word and they're like, oh, heck no. That violates our contract we have with you. You can't do that. You can only buy from us. And then we go, great, we'd like to buy thousands. And they go, yeah, we got 26. And so we continually run out of stock on them because we don't get to control the supply chain. And it's that classic scenario of they don't think we'll sell as many and they don't want to stock that many. And so if they had thousands to sell us, we would sell thousands. But since they have hundreds, we sell hundreds. And we can't convince them to bring in thousands because they say you only sell hundreds. It's the dumbest system. And if it didn't require me to launch a whole new ecosystem with an app and everything, we would probably do our own kind of timer like that. But the fact that I don't want to spend our time going, well, let's develop the timer, let's develop the power strip, let's develop the cameras, let's develop the light switch. They do have a lot, Casa, the parent company, has got a lot of good stuff going for them. They just have a really crappy middleman in America. And, it's probably stifling their growth by some percentage. I don't know what, but it's not. We could sell way more if we could have access to them. That's what we know. All right. I've been using Casa before I was watching Cory and never had a problem. If there's a problem, it's your router. Most likely, because we sell so many of any product, we learn real quick what the problems are. Because like when Fluval updated their app and like 1 out of 5 lights was just bricking and breaking, we learn real quick when stuff ain't working. And it's super annoying when Fluval's like, nah, they're doing it wrong. I'm like, oh yeah, thousands of people just doing it wrong. Like, let me think. Like, I just made you a cheeseburger and you say it tastes terrible. And then I come back with, you're tasting it wrong. Oh, am I? Oh, okay. I must be the one tasting it wrong. I'm sure that's what's happening here. Do you know who we are? We are the Aquarium Co-Op. Kind of, yeah. I make that joke all the time, just with close friends and family and work colleagues, but only in ridiculous situations. Like, I'm trying to think. Like if I was at the airport and there's some kind of minor delay, I'll be like, do they not know we're Aquarium Co-Op? Obviously knowing they would have no idea and it would make no difference. It's more of just like a little funny thing. Because I try really hard to make sure I don't turn into that egomaniac, which I'm sure every day it's creeping a little more on me. And it's probably one of those things you never know until like, this guy is the egomaniac. He doesn't even know. I saw moss balls were back on the website. Are they going to be back in stock for the US? They will be back next week, I'm told. Now, that being said, I don't know the quality yet, and I don't know the size. But I do know they're back. I do know they're snail-free, I'm told, and mussel-free, I'm told. Now, we will see how that plays out, but, you know, we're optimistic. While having a gifted membership, can you gifted another one? I don't believe you can. Nope. Any good extreme food for discus? Krill flake goes over real well. There was a comment I wanted to comment on. Someone was asking, does the membership give 5% discount to partner stores? It does if they are a partner. Or no, if they sign up to do it. That's I'm gonna bring you there because that doesn't sound easy to understand to me, and I know what I'm trying to say. So we go to the website, and we're going to block that. We go to the website. Here we are, right at the top. You can find a store, right? And we're over 80 stores now, or something crazy. So all of these stores sell our products. Go Aquarium Co-op. I'm pretty proud of that. But not every store will give you a discount. A lot of them will, though. So let's say you lived here. Let's look at this one. Cogburn Aquatics. It looks like they do not. There should be, if I remember right, there's a filter. Yeah, member discount. So if I click the member discount thing, it'll filter. These are the stores that will provide a 5% discount because you're an Aquarium Co-op member on YouTube. So you could go over here to the Basement Reef, or you could go to the Fish Room, or you could go to Tiny Aquatics in Texas, or Natural Environment Aquatics, or Tropical Aquarium Professionals, or the Cichlid Shack, or Buzz and Bees Aquarium and Pets. What I think is super cool is I just went through all those, and you can just tell that like these are mom and pop type stores. Like the money you go and spend is literally going to further the hobby, that small business, all of that. Like I'm super proud of doing those types of things because I think I think long term it's really gonna do something. I don't know what I'm gonna do with an army of stores that are on Team Aquarium Co-op, but at some point we're gonna do a thing, and it's only gonna be we were able to accomplish it because you guys were supporting them, they were supporting us, and collectively we could do whatever that thing's going to be. I don't know what that thing is yet, but yeah. Sometimes I just like to click around the stores and go, what's this store? Jacob Z's Fish Aquarium. I haven't been to most of these, I'll be honest. Michigan Tropicals. I wish more of them, they might get onboarded and sometimes they forget to come back and like get a good picture of the front of their store. I like to have the picture of the front because I feel like that connects you more of like, oh, I'm going to drive there to Corals Unlimited. I could look for that sign. That's my thought process. Should have bad fish in here, yeah? Or are they doing let me zoom it in. They might be doing the discount. Florida Tropical Fish Farm and Co-op Store. The Shop Market Aquariums. Yeah. So yeah, hopefully one day this will, go much bigger worldwide. We'll see. Slow and steady. We just want to keep doing things well. How would I feel about juvenile Amano shrimp aside? Wait, what would you feed, not feel? What would you feed the juvenile Amano shrimp besides available algae? I would just fish food. I just try to feed extra in there to, provide some with protein basically. Yeah, there we go. Food suggestions for discus that works on an auto feeder. Try the stupid expensive discus food from Cory. We sell it, and I know people have had luck with it. But yeah, that's been one of the eternal struggles for discus keepers. I got to go out of town. I don't really want to hire someone. What will they eat? I've only been feeding them bloodworms for the past 27 years. Yikes. All right, we'll try this. Yeah, that would be my advice. Go with the discus bites. How's the new co-op expansion going? Slow and steady. Yeah, I have a meeting there, I think, next week. And It's just a our business is so diverse and getting so big that yeah, there's always just so much to do every day where it's like, yeah, I have a meeting on that seems like it should be a huge part of our business, but the reality is like day to day, there's just more big decisions and things happening all the time where it's like, yeah, we gotta get on that. But like I spent the last couple of days in the warehouse really working on fine tuning our plant systems at the warehouse. I'm trying to think ahead, and we're gonna try some new pumps in our sump to reduce the heat that we experience in the summer. So right now we have these big 8,000 gallon per hour pumps, one for each level. So each sump has two 8,000 gallon pumps that each use 540 watts 24 hours a day. So that's 1,080 watts every single day, all day long, heating that water. When it gets to the summer and we're trying to cool everything down, it's like we're fighting against 1,000 watts of aquarium heater. Now it's spread over lots of water, but I found a new pump made by the same manufacturer I like that will do about 5,000 gallons because we're already throttling it down, but it'll do it with 200 watts. So that would drop 1,080, 1,080 watts. It would drop it to 400 watts, 60% savings in potential heat transfer. And so that could be huge on the hottest days in the summer. The YouTube aquarium. Wish Whitey's Pets would carry your items. So what's interesting is I've heard the name Whitey's Pets a bunch. The person that mentored and built my store for me used to work many, 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 many years ago, at least 40 plus years ago at Whitey's Pets. And so yeah, that would be kind of cool. If they did bring it on, I would definitely call my friend and be like, you won't believe what happened. I was watching the Green Aqua video and one of the guys did an ideal setup and he spent like $4,000. I'm like, how is this ideal? Yeah. I don't know if that video came out. I have this problem where I film stuff and then it won't come out for like 2 to 6 weeks. And no, I don't think it's come out yet. So I did escape with chicken bone stone and cryptolutea. And I was saying that I only used 10 pots of cryptolutea and I used 2 boxes of rocks. And I said, this is going to cost you, roughly $400 was my guess, I think is what I said. And I said, if I was being the good YouTuber I should be using like another 30 pots and it would be like done today. But I don't like to do that because it's not reasonable as a hobbyist. I remember what it's like of like, ooh, 10 pots of this thing. It's like $100 and the rocks are expensive. And so I know what being a hobbyist is. A hobbyist is you put the stuff in and you let it grow. And you breed the fish so you make more because you can't afford to buy them all, right? That's the hobbyist way, and that's the way I want to show you guys. So Vibrobites for the discus, I agree with that. Yeah, if you can get them on Vibrobites, that's another great solution. I don't feed enough Vibrobites. I should order some more up. I go through these like, I don't know, it's kind of like my own people food. Like, oh, it's tacos all the time, and then it's pizza all the time, and then it's sandwiches all the time or whatever. I go through these little spurts. What would you suggest to thin out an expanding pond snail population? I don't want to get rid of all of them, just reduce the population. Is there some sort of snail trap? There are snail traps, yes. You can make your own as well. Kind of take a pop bottle, invert it. You might get some fish in there too, though. My best suggestion is actually doing a little bit of gravel vacuuming, removing excess debris, and cutting back food. After 4 to 6 weeks, there won't be enough. There won't be enough food to sustain these snails, and they'll die back in population. So it could just be a sign that you got too much going in. So you're asking me, will I ever invest in a property for your business? You really should think about a heat pump for heating and cooling. Potentially. I mean, the warehouse, so we're in a 10,000 square foot warehouse, and I think on the open market right now, That's somewhere between 4 and 7 million. And so that doesn't make a whole lot of sense because we need a warehouse that's about 3 to 4 times as big at minimum right now. Um, so yeah, it's a weird concept between buying and renting. And let's say we bought a warehouse 20,000, twice as big as we have right now. If in 4 years we actually need something bigger, but I spent 5 million or 6 million to buy it, now I've got this property I have to try and rent out and make some moves or liquidate to generate new capital to do the move again and buy a new place. And so until things settle down into we're going to be this size of company, we haven't done a whole lot. Well, a whole lot. We've done zero buying. So, yeah. Because each new thing, you start thinking about it like, oh, let's do lights, and then you realize like, oh, that's a lot of storage. And then so like the new things I think we have coming in this month, hopefully I think even in let me see here. Because someone was asking about air pumps, right? The latest I have from air pumps, I typed in importing into my email. The latest thing I'm actually working on is importing Oliver Knott's book, but that's not here yet. Let's see. That's not going to be it. Of course. Oh, wait. Nope, that's way old. I don't know why it's not. I don't know why it's not showing up. Here I thought I would like save time and energy for everybody and give you this latest one. That's January 25th. That's like 3 weeks ago. But I don't know what the latest update is, even though I saw it. In theory, our latest container should land tomorrow at the port. It says 213. This one has our new freeze-dried brine shrimp and TubeFX cubes, in addition to the single outlet co-op air pump, which will be the new improved version, by the way. So that means if it was a land import tomorrow, we're looking at probably the following week. Now, if it doesn't land till like Thursday, it might be 2 weeks, right? But I think these air pumps are going to fly off the shelves. And the reason being, the previous version 1.0, was amazing. Version 2.0 is even better. And between us running out, because we had to, long story there, but we weren't satisfied with the way our business manufacturer, our manufacturer there. So we pivoted to the person making some other stuff. We like their practices better. There's been so many more events of people losing power, around the country and the world. And so I really think people are going to fall in love with like, wait, power went out and boom, it's already, the air's going. Like I've even had more power outages. And so even I could use a few more. And so yeah, I really think they're gonna fly off the shelves. And we ordered a ton. So someone's asking, can members pre-order the air pumps? We don't do any pre-ordering. I'm not saying we never ever would, and we did way back when we were a real small company, because I couldn't afford to do it otherwise, like some of the lighting stuff. But it gets hard. The more we've been in business, the more we realize like. So imagine we took pre-orders on the light, and it took 7 months to get here because of COVID delays and everything. You've got people doing credit card chargebacks. That's costing us a ton of money. You've also got, let's say we did a horrible job or we never delivered it. After 6 months, you can't even do a credit card chargeback. And it becomes this nightmare scenario. And just like we won't take a loan or we won't take things on terms, we don't want you guys to either. That's why we don't do buy it now, pay it later. It's also why we won't take pre-orders. We want it so that when we have that product, we put our eyes and hands on it, and it's exactly the way we want it, and it's good. You then can buy it. I don't want to have to go, I know we took all of your guys' money. Turns out this thing's kind of crappy, and that's not what you signed up for. Instead, I want to be able to go, this is what it is. You guys go, hey, that's what it is. I would like to own that. That is a good, it would be like, for me, let's bring it back to food because you guys love to rage. Cory's always talking about food. It would be like buying a dinner party ticket or something 6 months in advance, and you saw the menu, and then the day before it goes like, oh yeah, we switched from steak, we're having salmon, and you're going, but I wouldn't have purchased it if we had switched to salmon. Like, that's not good. It's not that the food won't be great, because it'll probably still be great, but it's not what we signed up for. And we don't ever want to be doing that kind of, rug pull of like, well, I know what you're expecting. It's still good though. Yeah, what are the upgrades on the air pumps? The fact that you can dial up and down. Do I have them in here? No, I think they're with the photographer for pictures, I think. I think they're with Lizzie. She does a lot of photos for us and video graphic work, thumbnails for YouTube, all that kind of stuff. So I think it's 5 levels off the top of my head, 5 levels of intensity. So you can go up and down. So you don't have to only use like an additional air valve. So that'll be a benefit. I believe I need to do some testing. So I always hate talking about it because someone will remember this one conversation and then 2 months down the road be like, hey, you said a thing. And I don't have all of it in front of me, and there's been like 11 different versions. But I believe it's slightly more powerful. It is quieter. And let me think. And you can adjust the pressure. We changed the buttons like twice. I'm trying to remember. We had on, off, intermittent. Yeah, I think those are the main changes. There might be one other one. I'd have to think about it. But for the most part, they're going to be an air pump that everyone wants to use. It'll work like a normal air pump. It's fairly quiet. It's got the battery backup. We've got a lot of good things going for it. Will scissortail rasboras eat cherry shrimp? Some smaller ones probably would, yeah. Full-grown cherries, they might harass them a little bit, but they probably can't take them down, but they'll be eating babies and stuff. Would you use an air-driven filter in an open-top tank in the living room? I would, but I also don't. I don't like to not run tops anyway. I don't like evaporation. I don't like fish jumping. I like that it keeps it a little bit quieter. To me, it's like I got a list of pros a mile long for tank lids, and like one thing for a con, or not even like, yeah, con. And that would be like you get more light to your plants. I want all those pros at the cost of like, yeah, I take a 10% lighting hit. I can just have more lighting. My local fish store was open after the large earthquake we had in December. I got a battery-operated pump and styrofoam the outside of my tank. The water got down to 55, but I didn't lose any fish. Well, that's good to hear. Yeah, unfortunately, battery-operated like heaters, not really feasible, but air, super easy. And my favorite part of our air pump is that it's automatic. Like, you can be at the movie theater watching a movie, power goes out of your house, you wouldn't even know it. Air's still going. I could be out of town, all of that. I love all of those aspects. Like, right now, even in my fish room, I have a big battery backup for my air pump. So that if it goes out, I don't have to worry about air. Don't even worry about it. And we also put one in at the retail store. Don't have to worry about it. It never feels good to, like, buy that, but it feels somehow 1,000% better. It's probably like buying insurance, right? Paying insurance sucks until you have like a horrible car crash and you're like, wait, they're gonna give me another car, like, and they're gonna pay this medical. Now there could be times you get screwed too, so let's put that aside. But when you get to utilize it, you're like, this is worth every penny. And I think the air pumps are like that. Of like the minute you've got power out and you're just like, Well, that was nice. It's hard to appreciate it on a spec sheet and stuff like that. Candy is right. Longer cord. We heard you that you want a 42-mile long cord for air pumps, even though air pumps typically sit next to power outlets. Because my wisdom, which was incorrect, I believe, is that because you can have long airline tubing go into your tank, you can have an air pump that sits fairly close to your power outlet. But that didn't work for everybody, and so we have a longer cord. I don't know how long it is off the top of my head. I just know it's longer. What's the best fertilizer? Wait, what fertilizer is best? I'm in Canada. I don't know everything that's available there. I would probably pick either Tropica All-in-One or Denelay V20 if it's available. Blood parrot of more than 3 years is laying down on the ground of the tank upside down and not eating for almost 4 days. This happened for the first time. Should I be worried? Yeah, I would be. Yeah. I would definitely start looking at water parameters, testing, checking for temperature, stick my hand in there, look for a straight current, anything. I'm collecting as much data as I can. If all of that came back as like, looks great, I would then change water anyway, going, maybe it's something I can't diagnose. But yes, I would be worried with a fish laying on the ground, not looking so hot. Is my air pump quiet? No, it's kind of like, when you're laying in bed and your neighbor starts up a lawnmower and it's Sunday at about 4 a.m. It sounds just like that. Or imagine you're sitting down to dinner and your neighbor starts up the chainsaw to take down a tree. Both those identical to the sound of our air pump. In actuality, yes, our air pump is quiet. That being said, we're going to sell 10,000 of them, and 192 people are going to go, this is the loudest thing I've ever seen. Cory is such a liar. And the problem with that is people's ears are built differently. They all tune into different tones. Do I have? No, I took it out of here, but I own a dB meter. We tested it against all the industry leading air pumps and all of that, and ours tests really well. That being said, we can never win by saying, it's like saying we sell the world's best cheeseburger. There's just going to be people, my uncle made one, tastes way better. Like, you're right. Your uncle's got the best cheeseburgers. Okay. So, is our air pump quiet? Yes. Are there people going to be like, not quiet enough? I'm sure there will be, because unless it's silent, is free, and generates money for you, there will be room to complain. So I think for the average person, though, they're going to go, yeah, this thing's great. And we think so too. So, yeah, I think it'll be fairly quiet for most people. How do you test for straight current? You said put your hand in it. That's when I notice most straight currents. If you were testing for straight current, using a multimeter would be a way to really test for it. But where I noticed it working in fish stores and stuff over the years, or in my own tanks, which is rare, but if you have any kind of like open cut, like if you did, I don't know, like a paper cut or anything like that, the minute you put your hand in something's got straight current, it'll feel almost itchy or something. Just like, oh, yeah, there must be some straight current in here. And then what I do is, and I'm not the smartest guy, so, it's probably one of those, don't do as I do. Then I go, oh, well, let's unplug the heater. Nah, yeah, there's still some current. Okay, let me plug the heater back in. Let me unplug this filter. No, not that. Okay, let me plug that in. Let me try this, knockoff UV sterilizer I bought on Amazon for $26. Like, oh, yeah, that's it. Yep. All right, let me plug it back in. Yep. Okay. All right, that thing's got to go. Or whatever, Sometimes it might even be a good UV sterilizer. Or, a reason I'm bringing up UV sterilizer is that internal quartz sleeve, all it takes is it to get a crack or something in it and let a little bit of water in it, and that's enough to start allowing that straight current. But other stuff can do it too. We've had heaters do it. You also can buy things called grounding probes. It's basically a plug-in outlet with a wire that sits in your tank, and in theory it's going to pull out. It's like the grounding rod you'd have with your electrical panel and stuff. So But I normally feel it that way because I don't walk around every week going, okay, well, I've got my multimeter. Is there any stray current here? Is there any stray current here? That's not a real life scenario. And so normally I feel it. And these are very subtle currents because like all of my stuff is on GFCI outlets, and so it would trip if it was a big thing. It's just minor things, and straight currents can lead to lateral line erosion, or hole in the head disease, things like that. And overall, just unhappy fish. And so if you got a weird thing going on, you can't diagnose with water parameters, take a multimeter and see what's up. We're bringing on a dual port air pump, and it's on this container. Yeah. So the reason why, so we have a single outlet and a dual outlet. Why don't we have both coming? Well, the honest answer is we literally couldn't get enough microchips. So that microchip shortage you've been hearing about for the last 2 years still is a thing. And so we could launch one, and we're like, well, let's launch. Like, we know that single outlet sells more than dual outlet, so we're like, let's launch a single outlet, and the next container should hopefully have the dual. But it's even, that's what's crazy is people, they think about cars and other things, but there's microchips in everything. Like this microphone, there's some of these AirPods, like everything has microchips in our lives. And so it's, and we're all kind of bidding for the same attention of these very few facilities that make microchips. And, yeah, but it'll work well. Well, and so we could have designed the air pump to not use a microchip, but then it wouldn't have all the sweet abilities that we want, like auto staying on when the power goes out, and adjustments and all that kind of stuff, and the ability to put it into a mode where it'll save the battery, because I think it's 15 seconds on, 15 seconds off. What's the most silent hang-on back filter? I honestly don't think there's any difference. Any filter set up correctly with minimal bypass, not letting it get clogged up, the lid's sitting on correctly, the impeller's been freshly cleaned, not too restricting on the intake, all of them are kind of the same. And you might be like, well, this one makes a vibrating sound. Like, great, put a piece of styrofoam behind it, or a piece of foam. Once you kind of do all these little hacks to quiet it down, like they're all kind of the same. Like if I was to pick two hang-on backs, like, Cory, what are your favorites? I would say Aqua Clear. And then Bob Steenfot goes, no, you're an idiot. I don't like those. And I go, great, you don't have to use them. And then I go, and if I couldn't use those, let's say they're all sold out, they're never making them again, then I would probably use the Cascade hang-on backs. So like people would say, oh, but those are dumb. And I go, yeah, but they're cheap and they work well. At the end of the day, it's so easy to accomplish what is going on there that, And the only thing I will say is I hate the CCAM title, which a lot of you guys like it. I just think it's a terribly designed filter, and I can't get past the surface skimming and how it just eats baby fish and shrimp, and you're like, yeah, but you could cover that up. Like, yeah, okay. And then I don't like the awkward shape hang on back part, just so you have to buy their crap, where yeah, I can use my own cut to fit pads and stuff, but they intentionally went out of their way to make it difficult. I don't like that their clogged little thingy doesn't work that well, right? So there's all those things I don't like. I am like the only guy on the planet that doesn't like the fact that the pump is inside the tank. I don't like that. I want my crap on the outside. I want the least amount of stuff. At that point, if I got to look at it, I'll use a sponge filter. I also find that I don't have the problems that other people have, where it's like, oh, my filter didn't start back up. I don't know. Maybe I take care of them. Maybe the way I do them, they work different. I don't know. I just don't. I'm not saying I've never had it happen, but I've had it happen with all these other brands too. So it's not like I don't see a huge difference, and they're more expensive. So when I build mine, it'll be similar to most hang-on backs, because it's kind of like saying, I'm gonna build a car, and you're like, you put it on 4 wheels. This guy is just making a car. It's a box on the back of an aquarium that pumps some water through it. My goals are going to be works with the most things possible, difficult to break, affordable, doesn't need extra bells and whistles people don't need. It'll be like our light, where it's like, sure, we could have made it, bake nachos, but it would have cost more money. We want the simple things. I'm not going to load it up with carbon, for instance, like the box isn't going to come with fresh carbon. We don't need that crap. We need more sponge. We need more bio rings. We just need stuff that's reusable forever. But that's not what, will sell the bottom line at a PetSmart and a Petco. PetSmart and Petco are going, cartridges, how cheap can I buy them? How much can I sell them for? How fast does it clog? How many does it take? Take 6 cartridges? Great. People got to buy them 6 at a time. I love that. Ooh, you're only going to sell them in 4-packs? Love that even better. They got to buy 2 4-packs to replace 6 cartridges. Now we're making money. Like, if I just cut out all that BS, we're already a leg up of a lot. So, yeah. My AquaClear starts to back up too? Yeah, in my opinion, the foam in an AquaClear is too dense. That's why, people ask like, Cory, why isn't your foam density the same as an AquaClear? Because I think the AquaClear foam is too dense. Also, if you've owned an AquaClear for like 10 years, that foam breaks down. That's why we run a different porosity and we made our own. So there'll be things like that where I'm just going to optimize. Like, all I can do is take 20 years of being a fish nerd and try my best. And it turns out when I do that, it's pretty good compared to, well, this German engineer did his best. Oh, he's never owned an aquarium. Oh, the math checks out. I believe that. But have they ever worked on this thing? I also believe they never have. Like, all the math in the world doesn't compensate for the mulm of an Oscar versus the mulm of a Pistogramma cockatoides, or how likely are guppy fry to get sucked into that surface skimmer, or shrimp babies, or duckweed to clog it up, or, all of these things. Those are intangibles that you have to know by it being a pain in your ass for the last 20 years. That's how you know, yeah, we're going to make it not do that. That's for sure. We're going to make it so on the AquaClear and the Seachem titles and all of that, the little adjustment thing doesn't fall out every dang time and is a pain to adjust. We're going to find a way to fix those stupid things. Yeah. Someday, right? Someday. Not today. Today we're still focused on lights and air pumps, and we got to recoup money, and we got to start. I do think the Chinese International Pet Show is in May. We do intend to go, so hopefully we'll find a manufacturer that's gotten most of the way. That's my favorite thing. My favorite thing is to find someone who's gotten, you got it 70% there. I just got to get that over the last 30%. Let me make these tweaks. Let me do this. Let me do that. And I tried to do that for Awaze. They were 3D prototyping their hang-on back, and I was like, it's going to be terrible based on your other products where clearly your German engineers did it, but you don't have hobbyists do it. It's real evident. And they said, nope, our German engineers know the best, and they released a product that is just mediocre like everything else. Like, yep, you brought it out in white and black. Ooh, cutting edge. Yep, okay. It is what it is. And, I can't work with people that don't want to make a better thing, or, like, we listen to feedback all the time. Our stuff sucks. Like, we always know our stuff can get better. Hey, people are complaining about this. How do we fix it? Can we afford to do that? We're working on updates to our nets. We're working on updates to our heaters. We're working on updates to the air pump. There's even an update to the light. Because I don't understand a corporation, once you know you could make it better and it's affordable, like, it'd be one thing if you're like, oh, people want our light to do this, but it's going to cost twice as much. That's not a thing. But if it's like, wait, 12 cents, we can fix that irritation for those customers, let's do it. Yeah, do it. Yes, you got to print new boxes. Yes, you got to change the website. Yes, you got to do a few things, but that's so small in the 5% of customers are happy. Like, we just keep trying to do that. I have several of the smaller Aquatop hang-on backs. They're fine. Yeah. I could probably issue a challenge. Find me a hang-on back that wouldn't work. I literally think I could run a fish tank system with the worst hang-on back off the shelf you could possibly find. And of course it's going to work. Like, we're It's just like foods. We're so far in that we're nitpicking the smallest little things, right? You got price, you've got some features, but at the end of the day, it's a box of water that has something in it to grow bacteria, which could be gym socks, could be bio rings, could be sponge, could be bio balls, could be lava rock, doesn't matter. Pick one of those things and the water goes through it. That's all you got to do. Everything else is fluff, right? And so the hope is that we can add the right fluff. Hey, look at that. This material doesn't break down as fast. Hey, look, this isn't a pain in the butt. Hey, this thing doesn't overflow. Hey, this impeller seems to last a long time. Hey, the flow seems good. Hey, right? Even if you just look at bettas, you got 50% of the people, this filter is too fast. I need to modify it to slow it down for my bettas. You take that same filter and you put it on an African cichlid tank. This filter is not strong enough, right? I honestly think we're at a point with most products where we're looking at a very small set of tweaks to change in between products and preferences and things like that. I have both my aqua filled with sponge block that you sell with the pre-filter. Runs way more efficient for me. Yeah. I mean, the intake sponges that we sell and the sponge pads and everything, I made them 2 hot rod aqua clears because I love aqua clears, and I think their sponge was a little too fine. I also thought that they didn't provide you enough of it, and there was no pre-filter. I honestly think pre-filters and a coarse sponge should be stock on every filter, because inherently you can choose not to use it. So give the user the choice. I don't like the way it looks. I'm not going to run it. But if you do want to run it, you already have it. And by running it, you're going to keep less food getting sucked into the filter, which means less rotting, which means less clogging of chemical filtration and things like that. And so, but that goes against selling more stuff. You know, there's been lots of filter brands over the years. Like I remember the BioStars in the Rena filters. They need to be replaced every 6 months. They're just plastic. They were literally just plastic. And because there's no like guiding principle to it, you can pretty much say whatever you want. I could say like, there's nothing stopping me from saying Easy Green expires every month. Except some of you guys might not buy it. But the ones that do buy it going, oops, it's like milk, better buy a new one, right? So there's not a lot of governing stuff. I like Awaze canisters. I love them. I think they're one of the most overpriced canister filters on the market. I also don't like the ones that have the heaters built in because they're positioned perfectly for a toddler, dog, or someone tripping to just snap that thing right out of there. How do we know that happens? Because Aquatop figured that out when they did UV sterilizers. How does Cory know that? Because he sold that product. Oh, 1 out of 10 people snap that thing within the first year of owning it. I also, when I was working with Awaze and they wanted me to help sell their stuff, I read through the manual, and if you followed the manual, you would flood your house. They didn't want to hear that. But, you know, I'm like, you can't even get the manual right. Part of it is when you have a complex system, you have someone who's never done it before, go give it to your grandma and go, hey, install this canister filter. If they follow the instructions and don't get to the end of the result you want, your instructions weren't good enough. You got to go back to the drawing board, right? You can't expect someone to be a hardcore hobbyist all the time. You need to expect that they have never done a canister filter and they don't know how they work. And we would have that. If you worked in a store, you know that. You know, like when I used to sell Seche canister filters, right? The whale line. We had O-ring problems, never ending. That sucked. We also had people that didn't know how to do one. So they put it together and they didn't realize that if they didn't close the shutoffs, that it would drain water. So they drained like 50 of their 90 gallons for their 90-gallon cube tank onto their floor and then were super pissed. And they wanted us to buy them a whole new floor and all that. And it's like, well, we're not doing that. Like, I can loan you my dehumidifier and our rug doctor, but we're not replacing your floor on something that you've used incorrectly. You can read the manual. Stuff like that actually happens. And it's just someone missed a step. They didn't realize, oh, I had to make sure that was closed so I wouldn't drain the water. And you that have been in the hobby for a long time go, but once the water's going on the floor, wouldn't you just turn the shut off? If you've never owned an aquarium before, you might not understand the shut off is the part that prevents that. And so, you gotta prepare products as best you can. Are CCAM root tabs any good? Yeah, they're fine. We sold them a long time. They work well. I would say only buy them in the 40 pack. I don't know what current prices are, but the 10 pack they used to sell was swindling people. 40 pack was way better. In fact, we used to take the 40 packs, open them up, and sell them one at a time because that was way cheaper than the 10 packs they were selling. I wonder if that's still true. Hop on like Amazon, let me see if I can find the 10 pack and the 40 pack. Where's the 40 pack? It can be hard to find the 40 pack. Yeah, here we go. So yeah, the 40 pack, that's funny. Amazon's telling me the last time I bought a 40 pack was September 21st, 2012. That would have been 3 months before I signed the lease on my store. So back then, I didn't have a wholesale account or anything. I was buying just like you guys. But you can get a 40 count, so you get 40 root tabs for $17.08. And they're pretty good, I would say. And their 8 count. So I can find their 8 count. Or 10 count, sorry. It's a 10 count. Their 10 count is $8.99. So if you're gonna buy them, only buy them at in the 40 pack. Which you might be going, I only got a 10 gallon, I don't need that many. I get it. I hear you. But you save a ton. All right. Got a few minutes left. Want to make sure I address as much as possible. Thanks for finally supplying JJ's Aquarium in Antico, California, and Randy's Fish Palace in Stockton, CA. Hey, two more stores down, 2 million to go. Well, we don't really want to be in every store, but it would be good if lots of stores carried us and lots of stores were good. When will the air pumps be put on the website? The air pumps are already on the website. They'll just come into stock. It's the same air pump, but version 2.0. Does that make sense? I recently saw your video about the fish store that doesn't do water changes, but I see online that people say minerals will build up in the water. Any thoughts? I've got thoughts about everything. My first thought is people online generally have no idea what they're talking about, because as a group of people, we can never agree on anything. You know, you're dumb, you're an idiot, you're smart, you're cool, whatever. If we try, at least my logical brain, if I try to go, okay, let me focus on this, what would really be happening in that store? One, every time you sell a fish, water's coming out. So water changes are happening, actually, just didn't make the video. Two, all the tanks are planted. So plants are constantly consuming minerals, right? If anything, you would say those tanks might not have enough minerals in them. Now, we know that he uses root tabs and other things. So I would say people love to give their opinions. Most people aren't critical thinkers, I find, in an online space because it takes time and you've got nothing to gain from it, right? Like I've got stuff to gain because 20,000 people are going to watch this. So I've got something to gain. But as just Cory McElroy on the internet, if only one person ever read it, how much time am I going to spend? I'm going to spend, 5 minutes going, hey, here's what I think. But when I know that if I say something, a lot of people are going to listen, I try to critically think and go, okay, I want to try to make sure what I'm saying doesn't back me into a corner, doesn't alienate people, and whatever else I can think of. Let's see here. Yep, our first puffer, Hank, passed away 8 years ago. Was sad times. He was our first big moo puffer. Does anyone really have just one 10-gallon aquarium? Yep. It's the most commonly sold aquarium size in America. And tons of people only have a 10-gallon. It's human brains are hard. We tend to think everybody is like us, and we don't understand that, like, I bet you the biggest demographic is 10-gallon tanks with bettas in them that far outweigh any other type of aquarist. Like, as strange as that sounds, because it seems so foreign to us, we're like, how can you not have multiple tanks? How can you not have bigger tanks? How can you not? How can you not? How can you not? But that's just the stats. It's like, wow, it's crazy. So you got to think about it. You got to think about it. And you got to go, okay, I got to design products. I got to design things to cater to these people. Wes Crockett says, that's all I have. I have one 10-gallon. Jacob says, I have two 5-gallons. Yeah, it's, Pamela's got four 10-gallons. But, I knew when I went into business that my whole goal was if I focus on things that can be sold to a 10-gallon, I will win. Because everything that can go in a 10-gallon can go in a larger tank, right? You can take pygmy Corydoras, you can keep them in a 10, you can keep them in a 20, you can keep them in a 500-gallon. But what I know is you can't take an Oscar and keep it in that 10-gallon. You can't take a Datnoid and keep it in that 10-gallon. And so the whole way I laid out my store was, if this can't live in a 10-gallon, I don't want to sell it. And we do break that rule, but we have to know that if this can't go in a 10-gallon, we're already limiting who can buy it. And so really, I adapted that plan. It actually became a 20-gallon. If this can't basically is live its life in a 20-gallon, we don't want to sell it. That's why you're like, why don't you guys sell way more discus? You guys are smart. You got money. You could do things. And it's like, yes, but that won't make us money, and we're a business to make money. We're better off selling tetras and resboras and danios and epistos and smaller loaches and corridoras and smaller catfish and frozen foods and dry goods. And, it's not that we don't think everything is cool, because nature is amazing. It's that if, it's the same reason we don't sell African cichlids, Central and South American cichlids that are larger. If you walk into my store and you don't know what you want yet, and you go, oh man, I have fallen in love with these shell dwellers, and I've got a 20 long. You go, great, I'll take 6 multis and an Anubias, and you're done forever, essentially. Right? You got a sponge filter, an air pump, an Anubias, and 6 multis. You've spent $200 at my store. That's it. You take that same 20 long, and you go, oh, you're making a planted community tank. Oh, you want 6 celestial pearl danios. Oh, you need 8 different plants. Oh, you need an aquarium light that will grow plants. Oh, you need fertilizers. Oh, you're going to need specialized foods to feed those celestial pearl danios. Oh, you want to add pygmy Corys. Great choice. Oh, you want to add a pair of epistos. Good idea. Oh, some chiller asboras. We can do that too. And so you end up now, all of a sudden, that same 20-gallon tank could make you $1,000 to $2,000. And so it never made sense from a business standpoint to intentionally set yourself up for failure. Especially knowing that, like on bigger tanks use more food. More food costs more money. People that spend a lot of money look to save money. And so when I worked at a store that had 300 tanks and we'd sell Africans and Central and South American cichlids and community fish, we'd routinely see people who would buy all the Africans from us, get their fish, and then never buy anything else from us because they're buying all of their food and everything online because they'd save 30 cents per package or whatever it was. And so I learned in those experiences of like, that's not going to help me stay in business. We need to teach people about live foods and frozen foods and educate and provide value to be able to make it. So yeah, try to sell stuff, live in a 10-gallon. I should do a video. We do videos for the retail partner stores, and I should do one on fish selection like that, because it just does so much better. The smaller the vessel the fish can live in, the more buyers you have as a potential. And that's really important. Let's see. Maybe we're just wrapping it up. I haven't found too much I need to talk about still. People just saying they got 10-gallon tanks. Yeah. Repairs on a cracked bottom panel acrylic tank. Need your own opinion on what to do. Well, you don't really need my opinion. You need how to do it. Typically, use acrylic cement. You can go with Weld-On 4, or it's like, I don't know, like 18 or whatever. One's really runny. One's more like super glue gel. You would have a patch. You'd put the patch in. You'd glue it up on the inside. And you could probably move forward. If it's right on a seam, like I've had to do that, then you're going to use the really runny stuff and you're going to try to fuse that panel back together. But that's how acrylic tanks are made anyway. You're fusing panels to become one. And so you're just doing that again, really. And if it's a smaller tank, you don't have as much to worry about. Big tanks, you really got to make sure you got the right strength glue and those types of things. If you could do an in-person how-to demo for new Aquarius, what would it be? How to gravel vac. Like the amount of people that just have no idea what they're doing. It's such an easy thing once you're good at it, but it's such a hard concept to explain over the internet or even in video. I think it's because it takes some dexterity, right? So I could watch a video on how to play tennis, but if I watch the video 10 times, that doesn't mean like, oh, I perfected my backhand. No, you got to get out there and you got to do the backhand and go, oh, wow, a little bit of change. The ball goes in a way different thing. Kind of the same thing with gravel vacuuming. You kind of got to go, oh, yeah, you're pinching it and okay, yeah, getting the siphon started. Tube size, tube length matters. Gravel vac size and length matters. Whether it's got the end on it matters. Whether it's got the part right at the base of it to filter out so stuff doesn't go down the tube matters because that gets clogged. There's all these things, and in person, we used to do it multiple times a day, every day. When someone would come in and they're buying a gravel vac, I'd be like, oh, is this your first time? And they'd be like, yep. And I'd be like, great, we're going to go gravel vac a tank real quick. And so you can learn how to do it. And they'd be starting the hobby off in such a good foot, knowing how to do a good gravel cleaning if you needed to, and change water, sets them on a path to really do a good job if they want to. Not that every tank has to be gravel vac or anything like that, but they'll now know, oh, changing water. And I would explain to them, changing water and gravel vacuuming are different things. You can use the same device to do both. But no, in general, if I'm taking water out of an aquarium manually, I'm going to be, like most people don't do this, and they should. If you're gravel vacuuming, or let's say you're just doing your weekly water change, you can gravel vac your sponge filter, or the sponge on the intake of your canister, or your hang-on back. You're removing debris that on that sponge will not help your plants grow because it's not in the bottom, and it'll prolong the time you need to clean it. And it's not more work because you're already standing there taking water out. So you can poke at it and go, oh, look at that. A lot of stuff coming off. Good. Right? So I would start there because that's one of the basic fundamental things that can really help people be successful. And if you're really good at that, if you experience sick fish, you got to do water changes. That doesn't seem so daunting anymore. Can we have a discount at the Aquarium Co-op website? Yeah, that's literally what the membership does for you. You get a 5% discount. You just have to go link your account. If you go to the, what do we call it? We call it membership. What do we call it on the, I guess I could go here. I could probably show you guys real time. Let's go back over here. To link your account, you could click on this club button right here. You're going to see the speakers and the club events and that kind of stuff. You can hit join the club. There's also member-only products, so scratch and dent stuff. If this box right here, let's say we went to ship it because someone bought this 50-watt heater, and it turns out it was actually ripped, that now gets sold for 15% less in the scratch and dent area of the members-only website. So you can save an extra 15% just because if we ship this to a customer, we don't want them to think, oh, these guys are sending me bad stuff or return or something like that. So you get to save 15%. Now I have a product box that's ripped. But yeah, you'll hit the join the club button. You can watch some of the benefits you get. Here's what's included listed for you. And then at the bottom, there's a video on how to physically link up your membership to your account here on the website. And then when you're shopping, everything will get you 5% off. You even get 5% off the 15% off on the scratch and dent. Not bad, right? Ooh, there is one item you don't get a discount on. That would be gift cards. So otherwise, you could go infinite. You get a discount on a gift card. You buy a $100 gift card for $95. You spend that $95 buying a $95 gift card where you got 5%. It would be infinite. So that's why you can't get discounts on gift cards. All right. It is now time for me to say goodbye. I have to go have dinner with my grandmother. And I'm not sure. I think it's Mexican tonight, but it might be fish. We might be doing Ivers. It just depends on what we choose. We'll ask my grandma. Half the time she just says, I don't care, surprise me. Sometimes she has a preference. So kind of a little dinner roulette. And I think we're going to a bakery. We're going to try to get her a piece of cake or pie or something and, treat her because it's her birthday week. And so we'll probably do it this week and next week. Well, we'll visit her every Sunday, but we'll give her that extra treat. Last week, she got a mini Frosty. It's quite good, she said. And she tried the new chicken sandwich because she watches a lot of TV, right? Old people, who doesn't? And she really wanted to try the Wendy's chicken sandwich that had the fried mozzarella on it. And so after 2 or 3 weeks of hearing that, we made that dream happen. And she also got the mini Frosty. So good times were had. But how's my grandma doing? She's doing okay. She's 90. It's her 90th birthday. And so, it's one of those every day. I don't know. Do you wake up and, your whole body hurts? Or do you wake up and you're fine? So it goes day to day. And then, she's got early onset dementia. And so, each week that probably gets a little worse. Sometimes it's way more pronounced if she didn't sleep well. Sometimes doing really well, right? So, just keep having Sundays with her, keep enjoying time together, and I keep up my tradition. Live stream with you guys so you guys can hang out and work on your tanks. Then I go have dinner with Grandma. Then I come home, catch up on emails, and do some work and get ready for my week. So hopefully you guys are making a routine out of this as well. And we'll see you next Sunday because I'll be here and so will Grandma. I got to find the right buttons.